What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about a new God of War rumor that I think really kind of shakes things up, right? It throws an extra thing in there. We've been talking about this remaster Greek saga. You think about the future of God of War, and there's been the talk of like the Egypt thing, and then all of a sudden, you have Tom Henderson over there talking about going back to Greece and going back to young Kratos, and it's like, what in God's name is happening? Now, he does actually say at the end of this little segment on his podcast that he says don't run with it, but he brings it up and he literally talks about the whole thing. And so, look, I mean, he's in fact, I don't think there's a leaker better than him. Maybe Jason Schreier is like on the same level. But when he says it, like there's a lot of weight behind it. Now, the difference is he does talk about with this, somebody basically just told him this. So maybe that's why you want to take this with like an extra grain of salt. When he states something, he's normally right 10 out of 10 times, okay? But this is something that maybe he just heard, and he actually, I think he says, like, he's not able to actually, like, okay, this is solidified, this is actually what's happening. So it could happen, it could not happen, and because of that, the info might also be messed up, right? So he basically talks about what I just said, young Kratos going back to Greece and being a story that's kind of focusing on him and his father, and it's like, okay, well, some parts of that, like young Kratos and Greece, right, makes you think, well, that's not necessarily a new game. That's just doing those games again, because he says he's not able to verify if it's a remaster, a prequel, or a reboot. I don't know why you would do a reboot. I mean, like, I think it makes sense to just go from, like, what you did with Norse mythology, and then you just kind of jump, and if you want to go to Egypt, you want to go somewhere else, you could just keep going forward. You don't have to literally reboot the entire thing. I don't know, like, did Atreus kill it that badly? I personally don't think so. But if you really wanted to separate yourself from that, yeah, doing a reboot, but I feel like so much has gone into Kratos as a character. Even the Valhalla DLC, right? The free stuff, like that really kind of tied with a bow his like interpretation of himself and just kind of seeing what he was like when he was younger versus where he's at now. I feel like, yeah, you could say the story's kind of complete, but that doesn't mean like you literally hit the reset button and you say, okay, well, let's just tell an entirely new Kratos. No, you kind of can just keep going forward, or you leave it. I don't know why you would reboot it. So I don't know, for my opinion of it, I feel like the way it's described is it's either going to be a prequel, which you already, I mean, like Ascension already kind of fit in like the whole, okay, well, we have to fit it in like in the time period it belongs, so something like that, or if you just remaster it. And I do think Tom Henderson said in the podcast that maybe it's both. Maybe it's a remaster that we've heard about, right? This remaster Greek saga. You do that, and then you also make this new game, right? So they kind of tie in, you kind of remind people of those old games, and then you put Kratos back there in a new one. I mean, look, if you wanted to do like a Miles Morales, like a 4, 6, 8 hour game, and you wanted to do that, I think I'd actually be super, super down for that. I think that would actually be a pretty cool idea. I had always assumed you would just do like an Atreus one. I mean, the way I thought about future God of War is you could do an Atreus spin-off game, and it would be a spin-off, and it would be like an 8 to 10 hour thing, right? Smaller. And then the next God of War game, because you can't eliminate the name God of War, right? So it's God of War and it's Kratos. And you just have Kratos go to the next place, and that's its next like trilogy of games, and it's a, large scale game. That's what I imagined. Now, if you wanted to slightly alter that and say, okay, we'll put them back in time and we'll tell like a 5, 6, 7 hour adventure, and that's it. We're going to do that. And then the next mainline God of War game will be him in the future. It's like, well, I don't love the jumping around, but it is like a different kind of idea I never really thought of. But I don't know. I mean, I would like to believe that it's still that remaster thing. But actually, no matter what, because I like that he threw in, well, maybe it could be both of them. No matter what, I think you could still do that remaster of the Greek saga. I think it actually helps solidify that could very well now be happening. I've expressed like skepticism, I would say, in the past couple months that, people are just making it up. People could still be making it up because he was just told this, right? We don't know if it's actually true. But if it is true, and if they are doing, say, like a prequel game, well, it makes sense to also then just remaster those games. And as we keep talking about, I think there's so much value there, putting all those games together. There's a couple different collections of those God of War games, but not one that has all of them, right? And none of them that have done it, for PS4, PS5. That's the kind of stuff that I am kind of for. I know people are, split between, all these remakes, all these remasters, no new games. I mean, if you can do both, that's ideal. But also, if you you can show willingness to pay attention to or recognize these old games, I think that's also a pretty big deal to me, right? Saying, oh, we care about old God of War again. Maybe you also care about Resistance. Maybe you care about Sly Cooper. Maybe you care about Jak and Daxter. We haven't seen that. And by doing this God of War thing, I think that would show that they are willing to do it, right? So I'm for it. I'm for kind of any version of this. If it's a remaster, great. That's kind of what we've been talking about this last 3-4 months. If it's a prequel, that's actually maybe even more interesting because it just wasn't on my bingo board, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.